Board of County Commissioners, regular meeting April 6, 2023, 5:30 p.m. Please turn your cell phone to vibrate silence or the office setting. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regarding an item on the agenda. Invocation, Commissioner Bagash.
Please join me. We're going to observe a moment of silence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Pledge, Commissioner Berry.
Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you, Commissioner Bagash and Commissioner Berry. Are there any items to be added to the agenda?
No, sir.
Nothing from me?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think I saw where mine and yours were added.
Thank you, Commissioner. Those two were added, correct? Thank you so much. Wes?
None.
Thank you so much.
Move the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion second. Just raise your hand and vote, and they'll be fine with me. 5 in favor. Thank you so much. Commissioner's Forum, Commissioner Bagash.
Just two quick things. I know that we had the sheriff's roundtable on gun violence, and then sadly we had some shootings in the community, but I just wanted to thank the sheriff for his leadership in that and all the people who are participating. I know people are working hard. It's a tough issue that we're fighting against, and I also certainly would be remiss if I didn't think I was not able to make it. It was the first one that I haven't been able to make, but I want to thank the gentleman who sat in for me. My brother, the judge, Gary Bergosh, sat in. So a lot of people probably don't even know the difference. So it was good that he was there. He's a good guy to go. It's kind of a bittersweet, sad day today. I've just heard that we had several people nearly drown out at Perdido Key and Johnson's Beach today. There were several helicopter rescues, water rescues. So the rip currents were really bad out there, and there's not lifeguards present. So our prayers are with those folks. 2 of them were children, kids, and they got pulled out like 500 feet from shore in these rip currents. So you got to be careful. You got to watch conditions, and we'll just keep them in our prayers, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and your brother looked at least 10 years younger than you, Commissioner. I don't know what the birth certificate says, but he really looked 10 years young. He didn't have the stress of being a county commissioner. Right. Commissioner Kohler.
You did fine. You did a great job. I just want to say a couple things, and I think these are positive things, actually. This last week says a lot about our country. PFC Whitley, which was missing in action for 73 years, was exhumed out of Punch Bowl in Hawaii, died in Korea. He would have been 91. And they brought him back to Pensacola. They buried him on Tuesday. And I think it says a lot about a country that will continue to fight and find their missing in actions. Most countries wouldn't have waited 73 years to find someone. The family that was there, they never knew him, obviously. But the fact is that America did what's right. And I thought it was a wonderful story. Winn-Dixie yesterday, they opened up, they did a remodel on Highway 98. Their community partner, actually Jeff with Blue Angel Elementary, they gave them a check. And I just want to put a shout out for them. I want to thank Natural Resources and Lieutenant Davis. We finally got that Sonic taken down. The homeless camp that was there, I want people to know that we tried to get them into a shelter. We talked to them, tried to get them, they refused. And I can't tell you how many people are happy that that's gone across from Warrington Middle School. I want to say something about SRI. That was the company. They did not have the information. When they were notified, they took action within 10 days. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Lieutenant Davis and your team, Chip. That was wonderful. And last thing, which is more important to me, and I know millions of people around the globe, tomorrow's Easter. And for me, Sunday, for everyone that's a believer, we have hope. And so happy Easter, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, our condolences to the family of Federal Judge Roger Vinson, who passed away earlier this week. I know, of course, he had a great impact on this community. We have our next Olive Road neighborhood cleanup will take place on April 19th, and the residents in the cleanup area will receive a postcard in the mail. And then also, as Jeff mentioned, there were a few things going on on the water today. Last night, there was an accident on Pensacola Beach that had the roadway shut down for a number of hours on Fort Pickens. And so, of course, recognize all of our first responders, the traumatic scenes that they come across, and continue to go out there every day and serve our community. Like I said, I think between the three accidents, there have been about 5 helicopters that have landed on the beach in the last 24 hours. So we are glad to have those resources. Again, that's something that we have put in place and working to get the closest air asset to the scene, as opposed to just a company. And I think that's working out well. I haven't heard anything since we did that as a board. So again, just some of the things that we continue to do to improve public safety. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Bender. Commissioner Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to recognize Molino Park Elementary. Went out there a week and a half or so ago and had a great time at their spring carnival. To the kids out there, was fortunate to be a taste test judge for the dessert competition, so that was fun. As well as recognize GCA NRYO. They had their livestock show out at the Molino complex off Highway 99, Chalker Road. Had a tremendous amount of participation. A lot of young people showing all types of animals. It was a great turnout, high degree of participation. I don't know if Nick Simmons is here tonight. I don't think Extension has anything on the agenda, but I want to thank and recognize Nick Simmons. They caretake the property on a daily basis up there, and they certainly had everything ready to go, a Saturday ago, and great turnout with young people participating. I also want to recognize Tate High School softball, as well as West Florida High School softball and the Umpires Association. They had a strikeout, they had a charitable, or they had a softball game where they also raised money Friday evening, raised nearly $30,000 for the American Cancer Society. So certainly want to recognize many of our constituents for doing that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry. Commissioner Bender.
Sorry, yes, sir. A couple other quick things. I did want to. The three of us got to go to the Gulf Coast Kids House Luncheon on was that Tuesday? Tuesday. So I do have some discretionary funding going towards them this evening. But what I think I heard was that, of course, Gulf Coast Kids House has played an important role in advocating for victims of child abuse in children. But they're also starting an adult program. If I heard that right, that to try to help adults overcome child abuse that they may have received, and so I think again we heard that day of the impact that it can have on an adult's life, and so I would say that if you are struggling with that, reach out to the Gulf Coast Kids House and see how they can help you and overcome those traumatic events. And then also there is the Art of Fashion going on, I think, right now down the street outside on a walk for ARC Gateway. So I hope they have a good event tonight. Thank you.
No. Thank you, Commissioner Bender. Certainly appreciate it. And thank you, our colleagues. And certainly, Robert, my condolences and prayers and love certainly goes out to Kate and Joe Vinson. Ever since I've ever ran for office, Joe has ran all of my social media and all of my mail. And although Judge Vinson and I probably were on different sides of the aisle, and he was a judge, he continually supported me every time I ever ran for office. And so when you have a very conservative Republican that supports a liberal Democrat, he recognizes that we both love Escambia County. And so my prayers go out to Joe and to Kate and to Ms. Vinson, who are all very dear friends of mine. I certainly want to also continue to send out my condolences and prayers to the Bear family. Louis Bear, who I believe is one of the greatest supporters of local and state government, and his family, and David and Cindy and Lil Louis. They've just continued with Bail to make great contributions, so we continually want to send out our prayers to them. Unfortunately, a young man that played ball for me, and we call him Peanut, his mom, Michelle Singfield, was killed on Palafox Street with another senseless act of violence and shooting that continues to plague our community. And on last night in my district on P and Gaston, 3 teenagers were shot and sent to the hospital. And so we certainly send out our prayers to them, but also we send out our statement in that we can no longer tolerate the senseless acts of violence that occur in our community. I certainly hateful that I missed the Gulf Coast Kids House, and Robert, thank y'all for being there, and all 3 of y'all that did attend. And certainly I would be remiss if I didn't just take a minute and say, Mel Pino, thank you. There are some things that I mean, you think when you serve 10 years, you know everything about county government, but Mel, you never cease to amaze me with the information that you give me and how you keep me in line. So Mel, you know, certainly I think the difference makers are those people who cause people to raise their eyebrow. And so, Mel, thank you. I certainly appreciate what you've done in the last 2 weeks, and I wanted to publicly tell you that. Certainly, I see Dean, a former aide to Commissioner Valentino. Dean, thank you for being here, and we appreciate you. And certainly we have a representative, former county commissioner and state rep, Jared Williamson, who's a dear friend, and Jared, we're glad that you're here. Unfortunately, we do have the death of Peggy Scott. Many of you don't know Peggy Scott. Peggy Scott is a national recording blues and gospel artist, and Dan Cromwell probably wouldn't know her, but Peggy Scott lost her battle with a systemic illness, and so our families go to the Stockmeyer family and to the Scott family, and we certainly are going to keep them in our prayers. And finally, I want to thank Tammy and Claire and the CRA staff and Human Services. I see Garrett out there, and for really supporting. And last week they surprised me, and they were very supportive, and so we appreciate that staff. So again, thank you so much, Wes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got a number of staff who've been driving pretty hard on grants. They announced grant opportunities with a short deadline. Natural Resources Engineering, ECAT, Liz Kissel, and some others have been working tirelessly to put all this information together, get the applications filled out, and get them submitted on time. So I want to thank them for that. It's a lot harder work than folks would think. They don't just drop the money in your lap. There's usually a lot of constraints that come along with it. So I appreciate their efforts. Dean, it's good to see you. Dean always signed his emails off with the phrase ASAP, ASAP, all the time. So, but Dean, it is good to see you. And I saw Chandra Smiley back there. Appreciate her assistance with some things we're working on. Just a great partner. So, and with that, I'm good.
Well, see, Sandra Smiley tried to hide behind somebody, but that's great. But Dean, we appreciate you, and I'm going to continue to lean on you. Maybe I'll get an invitation to be a member of the yacht club one day. Well, maybe. I mean, maybe. I mean, I can ride by there. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a chaplain, so maybe I won't get invited. But with that, we will entertain a motion for the adoption of the ratification of the proclamations.
So moved.
Have a motion.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor. Thank you so much. Our first proclamation commending and congratulating Mr. David Myers, IT Web Coordinator, Develop Information Technology. Who will be presenting? Scott, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Wes, I just want to say thanks for recognizing Dave Myers as Employee of the Month for April 2023. Dave has been a long-time employee, so this is probably well-deserved and long overdue. But yeah, so I'll just go ahead and read this proclamation. If you give me a second so I can put my readers on. All right. Whereas Escambia County has established an Employee of the Month program to recognize one employee to represent the various departments, and whereas David Myers, an IT web coordinator and developer in the Information Technology Department, began his employment with the county on April 7th, 2015, and is selected for Employee of the Month for April 2023 for the standards of excellence that he displays in the performance of his duties. And whereas David is responsible for performing a variety of IT functions that include providing support for the entire web presence for Escambia County and all the associated databases, servers, custom applications, and APIs that allow the public and employees to connect to our websites and applications via the internet. And whereas Mr. Myers serves as the sole web and application developer on the IT team, and he maintains the web presence for the Supervisor of Elections, Escambia County Area Transit, West Florida Public Library, Emergency Management, myescambia.com, and other web-based applications he has developed over the years. And whereas David ensures the county public-facing sites remain protected against cyber threats, and his specialized skill set has been important for the success of several projects that he has led, such as the UKG Employee Information Integration, the Local Contractor Lookup Tool, the Employee Resources Intranet website, and Emergency Mortgage Assistance Program website. And whereas his skills have aided him in many successful projects that impact Escambia County agencies and departmental partners. One recent example is the Homeless Shelter Dashboard. He led the application development efforts by meeting with community leaders and created a dashboard that helps track shelter and food site information. And whereas David is a graduate of the Florida State University Certified Public Manager Program, CPM, he's a responsive leader who works tirelessly to ensure that systems are functioning properly and always seeks ways to make software more user-friendly with a positive attitude. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, commends and congratulates David Myers on his selection as the Employee of the Month for April 2023. Board of County Commissioners, Escambia County, Florida, Lumen J. May, Chairman, District 3, Stephen Berry, Vice Chairman, District 5, Jeff Bergosh, District 1, Mike Kohler, District 2, and Robert Bender, District 4. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations.
Thanks, Scott.
Here's your check
Thank you.
and a pen.
Oh, well, thank you.
Don't worry about the pen, keep the check, David.
Oh,
Go ahead.
thank you. This means a lot. It's an honor serving the citizens of Escambia County. It's a pleasure working with the fantastic staff here, and thank you all for supporting our mission. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Eric Gilmore, presenting your proclamation ratified on March 23rd, 2023, commending and congratulating Richard C. Bode on his retirement and for his faithful service to Escambia County.
Get up here, Priscilla. Come on.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I have the esteemed honor of reading the proclamation for Steve Bodie for his years of service with Escambia County, starting with EMS and then through fire service. 32 years. That's quite an achievement to do that field for 32 years and do it day in and day out. And ever since I've known this man, he's done it honorably and served the citizens of Escambia County and always done what's best for the citizens of Escambia County, and I appreciate his years of service with us. Whereas Richard Steve Bodie has served Escambia County, Florida as an employee of the Board of County Commissioners very faithfully for 32 years, retiring as a fire lieutenant, Public Safety Department. Whereas Steve was hired November 1989 as part-time paramedic with Escambia County Emergency Medical Services and becoming a full-time employee on March 5th, 1990. And whereas Steve had firmly established himself as a paramedic before moving to fire rescue in 2000, where he became part of Escambia County's first paid fire department, transferring to the position of fire lieutenant, where he served most of his tenure. He remained as a relief paramedic with Escambia County EMS for an additional 15 years. And whereas Mr. Bodie has worked multiple emergency activations, including mutual aids, hurricanes, tornadoes, oil spills, ice storms, floods, COVID-19 pandemic, and several other local disasters affecting the citizens of Escambia County. And whereas Steve attained his fire officer certification and has served as an alternate acting battalion chief, he has spent many years mentoring and training fire personnel in both basic and advanced life-saving emergency medical care, along with certified paramedics in advanced airway and critical care. Whereas Mr. Bodie has responded to countless cardiac arrests, complicated medical emergency saves. One of these saves is where Steve saved the life of a Navy pilot that was struck by a vehicle on Perdita Key. The pilot stays in touch with Steve and is grateful for the life-saving care he provided for him. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners, on behalf of the citizens of Escambia County and fellow employees, commends and congratulates Richard C. Bodie on his retirement. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners express its appreciation to Richard C. Bodie for 32 years of faithful service and dedicated service as a county employee. Board of County Commissioners, Escambia, Florida, Lyman May, Chair, Stephen Berry, Vice Chair, Jeff Bergosh, District 1, Mike Kohler, District 2, Robert Bender, District 4. Would you like to say something? 32 years, buddy.
Thank you very much. I'm very, honored to receive this award. Also, I'm very humbled to have got to serve the citizens of Escambia County for this many years. I'm glad to make it out alive.
Thank you so much. The other two have been ratified on C and D. We'll take this picture. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we go to clerk and control's report, I guess Claire Long walked out, and certainly to my colleagues, Commissioner Kohler and Bender and I were with the sheriff at Brownsville, and we talked about the programs that we can do, and one of the programs was summer employment and summer youth. And so I hope that directors and middle management recognize the importance of training the next generation and paying it forward. And so if you've not signed up for summer youth employment, to put them into your programs, I think that that's important. This board has allocated funds to pay them. We need staff to train them and to bring them in. And so I guess Claire is back in here. If you don't know Claire, I hope that department heads, middle management will reach out and kind of share the spirit of what this board is sharing as we try to end gun violence and delinquency, and maybe bring someone into your department to train them to take your job and to encourage them. And so I encourage all of our departments to get engaged and to bring as many young people into your department through our summer employment program, and get with Claire Long as we try to expand this program to get young people to stay and live in Pensacola, because too often our best children, our better brains, our most intellectual children leave this area. And so part of our summer employment program is to grow your own. And so many of us have been afforded the opportunity to be gainfully employed by this county and get those resources of employment and good salaries, but we failed to pass it on. And so I hope that staff will take it's serious, that it's important to bring people into your departments to pay it forward. And so I look forward, Claire, to letting me know what departments participate. Did the clerk's office reapprove of publication of the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, the clerk's office has received all proofs.
Move to waive the reading.
Got a motion, second, please vote. Passes 5 in favor. Public hearing 531 West.
Thank you, Mr. I'm sorry. No speakers on this. Public hearing concerning proposed grant application for Federal Transit Administration 5339 and 5339C, funding for capital projects here at ECAT.
Chair, entertain a motion.
Move the 531 public hearing.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor. Thank you so much. 533 West.
Public hearing to adopt the Allison Acres subdivision street lighting and municipal services benefit unit ordinance. There are no speakers.
Move the item.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Passes 5 in favor. Thank you so much. Clerk and Comptroller's report.
Mr. Chairman, the clerk's office just has one routine item for approval tonight, and that's just minutes and reports prepared by the clerk to the board's office.
You're awesome. We'll
Move the
entertain
item.
that motion. There you, we have a motion. Passes 5 in favor. Thank you so
Mr. Chairman,
much.
if I could, with your permission, I know Commissioner Kohler has a hard stop where he has to go.
Yes, 7, what's your hard stop? Hey, so we're going to be done at 7.
I was going to ask to move OLF 8 up, but if we
Yeah,
don't need
can we
to.
do it after the growth management?
Sure.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's my goal, Director Marino, it's my goal. I know that he has death in the family to be done at 7 o'clock, so we're going to be done. All right. Horace.
Yes, so for tonight, we have rezoning case Z 2023-3 from LDR to MDR. The planning board made a recommendation for approval.
Okay, we have speakers. I don't know if they're in support, but I think that that's the recommendation. But if speakers want to speak, you're fine to speak, but, or either give us a thumb up that you support it. Meredith Bush, thumbs up, thank you. Richard West? Down? You're welcome to speak, I don't care. You want to speak, or you just want to give a thumbs down or up?
Hi, my name is Richard West. I live at 1208 Tiffany Drive. We oppose the change from LD to whatever it is, low density to minimum, or mainly because it doesn't fit in with the neighborhood. We're in a neighborhood that has right at 500 homes sharing one ingress out of that neighborhood on Motley Street. Changing it to where 70 more homes can be built on this small plot of land is definitely going to cause issues for the neighborhood. During the planning committee meeting, it was said that there was some apartments nearby. That's not true. It's all residential. It is true that the residential that's around it is MD, is currently zoned the same that they're trying to change this to. However, the houses built in that are still built in the LD. They're easily 4 dwellings per acre. So it just doesn't mix in with the rest of the neighborhood, as well as the additional.
Thanks, Richard, we
additional-
appreciate you so much. Bill Mixon? Bill? Support it, all right. Roger Moore?
Yes, sir. My name is Roger Moore. I've lived at 749 Ridge Road for 36 years. I agree with Mr. West. There's only one way in and one way out of that neighborhood. It's a small 2-lane street, Motley. Adding any extra housing would greatly, well, make it much more difficult to get in and out, and it's only emptying into 10 Mile Road. Anyway, I oppose it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. James Pace?
My name is James Pace. I live at 1148 Corsa Terrace. I've been there for 26 years. I am in the deepest part of the development. The only thing I can add to what's already been previously said is that there are 9 roads that empty into Motley Court. And it's a mess already, and I don't want to see number 10 established.
Thank you so much, James. Stephanie Sampson? And Mark Taylor, you'll be next, if you'll be ready, Mark.
My name's Stephanie Sansom. I live at 10530 Motley Court. My house sits on a third of an acre. So does my neighbor before me. So does my neighbor after me, which puts it at low density. And I'm totally opposed.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker, Mark Taylor, and Marcia Maple, you're on deck.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner May.
Hey, Mark, how are
Commissioners.
you?
Great to be here. Guys, I'm one of the owners of this piece of property, and we're excited about putting this development in there. It's a lot of misinformation out there. A week before the first planning board, someone went to Google and called it Calvary Ridge Apartment Building, just to kind of stir things up. Someone just said 70 lots. If we get 40 on there, we'd be doing good. But all of the land around it to the north is zoned MDR. That's what we're requesting. The land directly to the south is zoned LDR, but it's a non-conforming trailer park. It's a mobile home park, literally the entire adjacent. I believe it fits. It's going to be right. It's going to be a really nice development, and we hope that you guys will follow with the planning board and approve it.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it. Marcia Maple, and Michael Blunt is next.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for letting us speak. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm short here, okay? There's a couple of things. Adding the housing is already the concern of the traffic flow in and out. When I moved into that area, MDR was authorized through Henry Company, and he kept building. Then, when I first moved in 1996, there was a way that you could get out. However, that got closed off because Gulf Power has the road, and it's now fenced off. You cannot move. The people that live on the other side of Pate, in the Pate Road in this area, they actually have a way in and out in those communities. We don't. So what we're doing is adding to the problem here and not finding a solution. The gentleman that's building the developing is a very nice man, okay? We have nothing against him. We just don't want a whole bunch more people trying to use one way in and one way out. Many years ago, when Gulf Power would let out, now FPL, the traffic was horrible, and county commissioners, thank you very much. You put a traffic light that gave us a traffic flow at Kim Strand and 10 Mile Road. We still didn't resolve the full problem, but it helped ease some of it. It's still a problem. We have had 4 fires in homes in that area. If emergency comes, and thank you for your service, sir, then we don't have a way in and out. Ivan came through and shut us down. Please do not add any more to it. I live on the corner, so I know who's coming in and who's going out. You either know me, you know somebody, my neighbor, you're either delivering pizza, or you're lost, or you may be up to no good. I don't want the no goods. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much,
And I'm a retired
Marcia.
Navy chief, so solve the problem.
Michael Blunt.
Hey, I'll start with saying I also oppose. I live in the very beginning of the neighborhood, and traffic is already an issue, and I know that y'all really can't consider that, but one issue for me is I have some animals that live outside, and one of the 3 of the cats got ran over by a car, and we're just, we're concerned with this extra traffic going in, that it'll kill more animals, along with killing all the animals in the woods that are currently there that they're going to tear down. I mean, I know y'all, that can't even really be a factor, but it should be a factor because, lives are going to die because of this. The biggest issue is going to be the traffic, of course. Like, my wife sat there this morning for 10 minutes waiting to get out of the neighborhood, and that's without these guys. So if we bring these guys in, it's just going to be more and more difficult, which I would be fine with if they had some kind of traffic light there. If you think about it, we're right next to Gulf Power, so Gulf Power coming to work and leaving work at all the peak times when everyone else is, it creates a major bottleneck right there on 10 Mile Road and where Motley intersects. I'm sure there'll be really nice houses, and it's good for people who will move into them, but not good for the rest of us because it's just going to be too overwhelming for a neighborhood that's too small to handle something like this. Sorry, I talked too fast. Just want to get all my words out. Thank you very much.
No, you're fine, Michael. Thank you so much. The chair will entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I assume that there's some slides. Do we have some stuff to present? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I signed up to speak here, but you didn't call my name.
What's your name?
Raymond Higgins.
Come on, I don't have it on the list, but Raymond, come on. You have it?
Okay. All right. When they get done speaking, we load the whatever.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Frankly, I don't agree with the planning board's findings at the last hearing, but I think they have a limited look as to the rezoning issues. And I hope tonight you have a chance to set things right for me and my neighbors. The intended use of the property is not compatible with the actual present and future use of that property. From Mrs. Bush's testimony at the previous hearing on page 12, she states that the following uses are there: residential uses, a church, a mobile home park, mobile detailing, that means somebody's service truck is parked there every now and then, and dog grooming, that's some sort of garage business, I believe. But I have to disagree that there are apartment complexes and commercial buildings in the neighborhood. The Sugar Hill apartment complex and the convenience store are off Motley Court and go down east about half a mile. That's where you find those. Within the neighborhood, there is one church, a mobile home park, and approximately 8 mobile homes. Everything else is single-family homes on at least 1/4 to 1/3 acre lots. On page 6 of their application, Calvary claims that the property adjacent is to an existing church and mobile park. We agree that the property is adjacent to an existing church and mobile park. But the property is surrounded by existing residential development. Within 1,500 feet of property, commercial, industrial, and mixed-use zones exist. I strongly disagree with that. A convenience store and a dog grooming business run out of somebody's garage does not constitute commercial and industrial use in my book. Calvary's photos submitted in that packet you have before you today are very misleading and show only what they want you to see: unused land. To the east of the church, on the other side of the woods, are single-family dwellings, same to the north and to the west. To the south and on the other side of 10 Mile Road are all single-family dwellings, nothing more. The aerial view on page 67 of the documents that were presented for tonight
Ryan, would you close it up? Your time
and
is
post
up.
it online show a better picture of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Linda, Vita, and Ruby, do y'all want to speak on this item? Y'all are signed up for the 5:45, but do you want, come on, come forward if you want to speak on this item. Are you Linda or Ruby?
Ruby.
Ruby. Linda, do you want to speak on this item as well? Okay, thanks,
I
Linda.
want to thank you for this opportunity to be before you on this matter of extreme importance. The greatest amount of angst that grows within me is the transportation, as you've heard. But there are other things that go on there. For instance, the Board of County Commissioners, at the time this land was opened up, had an exit on Kingsville Road planned. That never happened. So now today, we have all this traffic going out one way. Now they ask for more people. I know that you have to allow them to have at least 4 items per acre. That would be my choice, because having more would be grievous to us. You can say that the entrance to that place, as stated by the Board of Planning, is not suitable for entrance and exit at that point where the church is. Also, there are septic tanks that will have to be put for those housing that goes in there. How many septic tanks can you put on 7 acres of land? 70 if you have 10 houses there. So I'm saying to you that in the beginning, when the county commissioners failed to follow through on their action, they failed our area. Now, I've lived on 10 Mile Road for 60 years. If you pass this, it would be the most grievous thing that has ever been done, and I pray it would not come back to haunt you.
Thank you, Ruby. Just so for clarification, are there any more speakers to this item that wanted to speak before we? Come on. And if you're next, young lady, you can be next. Just state your name for the record, and we'll get you to fill out a form after you finish.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Kenneth Stanford. I live on Bison Street.
Hold on,
Have been
hold on.
living there for approximately
Excuse me.
48 years.
Oh, my bad. You can't speak?
He cannot speak. I do not see record of him in the transcript. Did you present any testimony before the planning board, sir?
The last meeting I did, but I haven't this time. There was no one offering anything to sign up when I came in.
No, at the planning board meeting, not here, but at the planning board.
Right.
Horace, can we attest to
His
that?
name's not on the,
I don't see him on the transcript.
Sir, you can't speak, I'm sorry.
It's 10148
You can't speak, sir.
Dyson Street, and
Sir-
I did speak at the last meeting.
Sir, we can only go by the record. I would ask you to please exit
Well,
the
your
podium.
records are wrong.
I don't know, maybe they are.
You can testify to the
Is
fact
there
that I
anybody,
spoke.
thank you, sir. With that, ma'am, did you speak at the planning board? What's your name?
My name's Katie Hubbard. I spoke at both
Hold on,
previous
hold on.
meetings.
Is she good, Allison?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name.
Katie Hubbard.
yes.
Yes, she did.
Go ahead, Katie.
I live on 790 Deidre, but I just want to reiterate what you've already heard here today. The developer mentioned, at best getting 40 more houses in there. And if traffic's already bad as it is, and you have one road that people can use, I would just encourage you to come and look at our neighborhood and see what we have to deal with. It's not set up for that. That's a lot more people to bring in, and I know you've already heard it from everyone else that's spoken, but I'm strongly opposed to this, and I think it should be kept as LDR. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. I appreciate it. And I think that's all the speakers that spoke at the planning board, correct? Yep, thank you. What's your name? Is he on the list, Allison?
Yes, he's on the list.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I just want to say I oppose to all the people in the neighborhood that came up here and oppose. I oppose to it also. I live on 923 Valley Ridge Drive, and I know on the last meeting they was talking about running a road from Tiffany out to Motley. I'm not sure if that got kicked down or not, but I oppose to that also if it's still in effect, because the only two roads back there is Valley Ridge Drive, and I can't remember the name of the other street. But it'll make, if traffic come through there, it's going to create a lot of problems for the neighbor, for the homes right there in that area. And our street is a little wider than the street that sits behind my house. So I just hope y'all put that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We're done now with speakers. We're done, sir. Oh, well, come on, yeah, come on. Come on, Bill, you're fine.
826 Bell Alliance Drive. Hey, I just want to make this win-win. Mr. Taylor has a right to do his capitalism and do that. Why don't you just do a traffic study on Motley Road and see if there's some improvements can be made? A left turn lane, something simple as that. That's it.
Thanks, Bill, we appreciate it. Meredith, you, thumbs up, did you want to speak, or are you? Want to give everyone an opportunity to speak before we start deliberations, because they'll be done after that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Meredith Bush, 125 East Intendencia. I am the agent on behalf of the applicant, and we are asking that you approve this rezoning. We feel we've met the criteria. The planning board agreed that we met the criteria outlined in the code for the rezoning to MDR. Although we've heard the neighbors' concerns, they are not relevant to the criteria to be addressed by this board, so we would ask that you approve. Mr. Taylor has already spoken, but he's here if you have questions, or I'm here if you have questions.
Thank you, counsel. We've ended public input. Commissioner Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Horace, can somebody flash up do you have a presentation? I mean, you have something, correct? Okay. All right, that's good enough. Okay. All right, thanks. So when I'm looking at these cases and, read the item and read the transcript from the planning board, I have the same attitude that I had when I was on the planning board for a number of years before being on this board. I try to find a way to approve what comes before us. I think it's I'm very pro-development. I think it's good. I mean, we build our tax base that way, and I take an approach to try to find a way for folks to be able to do what they want to do with their property. Very rarely have I not been able to get to a place where I can agree that works. Unfortunately, this is one of those instances. I am very familiar with the neighborhood. You know, anecdotally, I rode the bus there 40 years ago. They were part of my elementary school bus route. For a large part, that neighborhood was built out at that time. You know, in the early to mid 80s, the majority of the homes were there already. You know, I do disagree with the planning board's finding. It may be compatible with surrounding current zoning, which is a little bit debatable because it borders LDR on the south and it does border MDR on the north. But while it's arguably compatible with current zoning, I don't agree with the planning board's finding that it's compatible with the surrounding uses. You know, what you have is single-family residential that is actually, you know, if you look on the ground, you see all the lots and the platted subdivisions that are there. All of those lots are going to be larger than even a 4-unit per acre development that they would be entitled to through the current LDR. You know, I think an LDR finding is, or an LDR zoning is appropriate for where they are. I think to take it to an MDR with 10 units per acre is, I think that's a little bit just over the top. I think the 4 units per acre still allows folks to be able to, you know, do what they, you know, to be able to do a project on their property. You know, if there's not a tremendous amount of comments from my colleagues, I would move to reject the planning board's recommendation and deny the rezoning request because it's not compatible with the surrounding uses. That's one of the criteria. As well, I also don't think that it's appropriate with changed or changing conditions. I don't agree with the planning board's finding there. Like I said, I am very familiar with this area, and especially the area within the black circle there, and the, you know, kind of the north 2/3 of the screen, everything north of 10 Mile Road. There is arguably no changed conditions within that screen. There's, you know, this is not a rezoning that would, you know, be fitting or be required due to the changing conditions of the area surrounding it. So due to those two criterias, that's what I would use as the justification to deny the request and reject the planning board's finding.
We have a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman, I think because the slide was up, it didn't
Okay, that's
flash the
fine.
vote for long.
It went 4-1.
It was,
It went
yes.
4-1. Thank you so much. Horace?
I was for, was it me that was opposite? I was for Steve's motion. So it put me as a yes.
Do you want to revote?
Yeah.
I can reset the vote. Hang on just a second.
I know, I think I read it wrong. I meant to be a yes.
It's kind of like going to the ballot box, man. Once you vote, it's over. And I know in the state of Florida, a lot of y'all made a mistake.
Mr. Chairman, based on the,
No clapping, please. That passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I just changed Commissioner Kohler's vote to yes on his
All right, it passes
recommendation.
5-0. Thank you so much, Horace.
based on the vote, Mr. Chairman, you either can drop the 545, the next item, or you can take no action.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman,
Barry?
I move to drop the 545.
We have a motion to drop 545. Motion and a second. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Horace?
Yes, sir. The next item is the 546, public hearing concerning a small-scale map amendment
We have
from
any speakers?
mixed-use urban to public.
Chair entertain a motion, no speakers.
Move to
I'll make-
546.
I'll second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor. Thank you, Horace.
Yes, sir. Now we have the rezoning case, Z 2020-23-04, from MDR to public.
We have no speakers, so we'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote. All right, that passes 5 in favor. Horace?
Now we have the 547. It's the map adoption of the previous rezoning case.
No speakers. Entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Please vote. Passes 5 in favor. Thank you. Horace?
Yes, sir, we have 548. This is the first of 2 public hearings to amend to a land development code amendment to the Warrenton overlay. First of 2 public hearings.
We do have 3 speakers. 545. And I think Linda and Ruby were, I'm sorry, Kevin Wade. No good. Melissa Pino? Oh, I thought you were going to be on Kevin's team.
It's going to be quick. Thank you, Chairman May. I just wanted to speak briefly, just one more time for old times' sake on pushing back against some nonsense that went on social media about this overlay. We even had good old Karen Sindel. Karen, if you're watching tonight, I mean, I know you got accused of not living on the west side when you were running for District 2, which wasn't very fair, especially since you interrupted the person trying to break into your house to prove it. But I do have to wonder, have you been on the west side lately? Do you know when you've got blight? Commissioner Burgash, we don't have any hot dogs at a Tom Thumb, okay? We would have one, except that guess what? This Warrenton overlay got, there was pressure from a previous commissioner, and because Navy Grocery is there, and don't get me wrong, I love him, he's a local treasure, but, Playboys and some drink, boxes and booze do not a gas station make, and that's why we don't have a gas station on that corner. Boy, would I love to have that. So Karen said that the overlay has served our district in that area well, and we shouldn't dispense with it. Nothing has served that area well. It's third world blight. Commissioner Burgash, you drive it every day. It's a disaster. So maybe this will help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Jim Kaufman.
Hey everybody, Jim Kaufman, Chair of the Warrenton Revitalization Committee. When I tell people that I'm the Chair of the Warrenton Revitalization Committee, the first thing they tell me is, hey, why don't you do anything about Navy Boulevard? It looks really, really bad, it's terrible. And that's the guys who don't use expletives. So I've come before you to speak in support of reviewing the ordinance and hopefully passing it, and specifically removing the language convenience stores and others if necessary to get this gas station opened up. The idea that an investor is coming in and trying to open up a store on an existing gas station, but because the grocery store is tiny and has the and might be confused with a convenience store, and the gas station is likely to sell chips and soda and candy, so that might be a convenience store too. It's blocking it, this overlay. So I'd like to appeal to your pragmatic senses and list off a couple of things that would come from this potentially. A cascade of benefits. Increased tax revenue, for one. Fewer vacant and dilapidated buildings, at least one. A handful of jobs would come to that site on Navy Boulevard. And this is the corridor between the Navy base and the downtown, where all of our guests and all of our enlisted and officer men and women, all of our service personnel come through and see firsthand Pensacola, sometimes for the first time. And there's going to be no small reduction of blight because that spot looks pretty bad now. Thanks so much. Please vote to review this ordinance.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. We have no more speakers. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, but I'd also like to make a comment if you don't mind.
Do good.
I want to thank Clara and Horace and Max. When I took assumed office, this was one of the first things I looked at. This was not about the Van Horns, although I get along with the Van Horns. This was about a gas station they called about that's blight now. And there's absolutely no reason that we should have blight over a gas station. There's interest currently to put that in there, and I just want to say thank you so much for moving this through the planning board. We need to clean up that, and this will help. I hope you support it, and I'll make the motion to move it forward.
Do be aware
Second.
this is the first of 2 public hearings. You'll have to see it again.
Absolutely. We know it'll come back again. So all of you who are here, it'll come back again. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Please vote. Passes 5 in favor. Horace?
Yes, sir. The next item is to 549. This is concerning a quasi-judicial hearing for a recycling permit located at 175 West Burgess Road.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Please, counsel.
this is a first-tier quasi-judicial hearing, meaning that you're the entity that's taking the testimony. So anyone other than attorneys who are going to be speaking to you are going to need to raise their right hands and be sworn in by the Madam Clerk at the end of the dais. So that would include staff people. You can do it all in one fell swoop as far as I'm concerned, but you will need to do that.
Well, we're going to do it all in one fell swoop. Any staff that may have the possibility of speaking, development staff, please stand up, as well as Jerry McGuire, Michael Long, Larry Downs, Jeff Godwin, Tanner Pamlis, Michael Callis, and Amy Hines. And please raise your right hand, Madam Clerk.
Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our first speaker will be Larry Downs, Jr.
Larry Downs, Jr. Man, you hear all this anti-freedom stuff up here? One thing you vote for, one thing you don't. Like, no, we can't have it there. And then the citizens come up, well, we want that. We want that store. We don't want that house or whatever. This is another thing. This is a recycling. Don't we want to save the planet? Don't we want to recycle? We don't want the county being the only one doing it. So I'm just here to speak for prosperity. And, if this is a allowable use in this land, then we should do it. So I'm asking y'all to move forward with it. I don't particularly have any dog in this fight other than for for prosperity. We all need it, even though the main problem with freedom is when you have freedom, you also have the freedom to advocate against freedom. It's a heck of a conundrum. So y'all should be moving more towards property rights, prosperity, and people making their own decisions and not having you and everybody else make their decisions for them. So you should err on the side of, individual property rights and freedom. And I'm going to go ahead and run this on out, Mr. Lumen.
Well, take your time. I mean, what I want...
Because I know you want to interrupt me so bad.
No, I don't want to interrupt you, Larry.
You're like, 2 seconds.
No, don't worry. You really only got 2 seconds.
2 seconds, 2 seconds.
Now you're done. Thank you. Bye. But while you're going to your seat, you wanted a black mask. Diane has a black mask. Maybe you'll get one. Jerry McGuire.
Jerry McGuire, JMA Engineering Services. I am the engineer of record for this project and previous 2 projects. What we've got here tonight is a conditional use for the approval of a concrete and asphalt recycling facility. We've talked to a lot of people that have called in when the cards went out. It is not a concrete batch plant to make concrete. It is not an asphalt batch plant to make asphalt. What comes in is broken up concrete, broken up asphalt, it's crushed, and it's sent right back out. So we're really basically a processing facility for asphalt and concrete. That's rubble. The old site, we were about 100 feet from the nearest house. We never had any complaints from the neighbors at that point over on North Palafox. We tried another site on North Palafox last year, didn't go through. Since that time, Jeff has bought a piece of property over on West Burgess. It's around some industrial complexes across the street of residential. Where we're setting up the site is about 500 to 600 feet off of Burgess. To the nearest house is about 700 feet. So if you look at some of these other facilities, and those are permitted facilities by Escambia County, you can kind of see the numbers, and the idea being to get as far away from residential as you can. On our site, we're that far, I think 700 feet roughly to the north to the nearest residence. And roughly, I did put on the map, it's about 1,200 feet to the south. Also, there's a big canopy of trees around this site. We're protecting all the trees we can, and that will help with any dust suppression, wind blowing, especially the winds we've had lately, kind of high, to say the least. We do have a development order that's in place. It's got to be approved, of course, by the board tonight, along with the conditional use. But that pretty much sums up the project. We've gone through the process.
Can you close it down, Jerry? Your time's up.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
And you're the only one here getting paid, so I mean, I'll let you go long you want.
No, I'm fine. Thank you, huh?
All of the attorneys getting paid too. Amy Hines.
My name's Amy Hines, and I'm a resident at number 8 East Pinestead Road. In my mailbox was a blue card alerting me that there was a concrete crushing plant within 2,500 feet of my home being talked about. I'm a resident that's extremely concerned about my health, my neighbor's health. I have a lot to learn, and I'm open to hearing about what a facility like this would be like, this close to my home, but I can imagine my air quality is going to change, my privacy in sound is going to change, and I have a lot of neighbors that aren't here tonight that are going to, want to know more, and just wanted to be here in front of you to let you know there are longtime residents of beautiful homes that we're real proud of, a great neighborhood community that really take care of each other, and we want to know more.
Thanks, Amy, and we seek to do that. Our next speaker is Jeff Godwin.
Not sure where to start. This facility gives us more room. We were at Palafox for the last 7 years, had no issues. We were within 100 feet of a residential house, never had any problems. Right now, we are surrounded by trees where you cannot even see the facility. We're so far away from the highway. The crushing operation is over 700 feet away from any residential house, any occupied dwelling in one direction. The other direction, we're over 1,200 feet. I've met with the neighbors, the ones that have found out, everybody's getting this card, and they don't know just like Amy has said, they don't know what to expect, they don't know what to think. They're not wrong. I've met with several of them. I met with Bob Tyler this morning. I talked to Alan, Bob Tyler, Alan Turner. I've met with the United Rental. Matter of fact, we've got a representative from United Rental here that can speak. The paint and body shop, the electrical business. I've talked to several, even residential people. I stop by and see them. They're not sure. They're like, we don't know. I've invited them to the facility. They're welcome to see. We had to move everything from where we were at to where we're at now. We've had trucks moving equipment in since December, and there's not been a problem until the postcards went out. When the postcards went out, everybody freaked out. But now, you know, we just need to educate everybody. We went from a 4.5 acre facility to a 10-acre facility. I've already secured everything else from Pinestead to Old Palafox to Burgess Road. I've already secured all that property to make sure we keep a buffer from everybody, to make sure nobody is inconvenienced, noise, in any aspect. There's not a health issue. This is just a processing facility. What comes in gets processed and goes right back out.
Jeff, your time's up. Thank you. Michael Long.
I'm a professional engineer for about 28 years in the state of Florida, and we do emission testing. And I've tested the site when it was at the old site before it had to relocate. And they passed all the requirements, both by the state of Florida and by OSHA. And one of the things to note is OSHA requires a 50 microgram per meter limit over an 8-hour average for operators working this area. Escambia County adopted a 35 microgram per meter cubed limit for 1 hour at the property line, which is significantly tighter than OSHA requirements. Their equipment is, OSHA requires water spray on their equipment. They have 8 separate water spray nozzles on their equipment to control the dust. They do a good job at it. The way they've relocated, they're planning to relocate the site, the wind won't blow through there, and the order that is being written up or proposed has them stopping crushing if the wind exceeds 25 miles per hour. So with all those controls, I see them staying within the limits easily. That's all I got.
Thank you so much. Tanner Palmans, I can't pronounce your last name. Tanner?
Hello. Sorry, this is my first time ever doing anything like this.
Oh, you're fine.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for giving me a platform to speak on. Me and my wife are here. We were just concerned about this postcard that we got in the mail. We had no idea what was going on. I just wanted to come in and have a better idea of what's going to be near our house. We've been there for about 6 years, and we hope to kind of have our family there. Now that I have a bit more education on it, I'm not as strongly opposed, but I would say there's probably better options out there in terms of real estate. But I mean, if you guys already own the real estate for it, I don't see why you would need to go get other land to move it there. So again, thank you. I appreciate the education on the subject.
Thanks, Tanner. Michael Callis.
Good evening, and thank you for your time, Commissioners. I live at 10 East Pinestead Road, and my wife and I have lived there for 24 years now, and it's been a quiet neighborhood. And from my understanding, from their other facility that's just up the road, they said there's never been a problem, but I don't know what that problem's going to be within 2,500 feet of my house. We both work from home, so it's nice having the quietness there. And I just have one rhetorical question for all of you. Would you like the recycling facility within 2,500 feet of your house? Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Michael. Our next speaker will be Brett Shields.
Mr. Shields will need to be sworn in. He was not with the initial group.
I recognize that. Would you raise your right hand?
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Shields, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give this evening will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I've obviously worked with NES United Rentals at 401 West Burgess Road. Mr. Godwin, I know him personally, but this facility he's putting in, we don't hear the trucks coming in. We don't see dust. I talked to my yard guys. There's only one facility between us and it's Enterprise Car Rental, between us and Mr. Godwin's concrete crushing area. But it's way back. There's trees all the way around it. Like I said, we've not even seen the trucks going in and out. So it's not a problem for us at all. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any more speakers? You need to give your name and then raise your right hand. What's your name?
Daryl Stewart.
He's not on our list.
I didn't sign up. I'm not familiar with this process. I didn't.
That's fine. That's not a
Okay.
problem. What's your name? Just state your name for the record.
Daryl Stewart.
All right. Thanks, Daryl. Go right ahead.
I live at 7301 Maxim Street, which is in the curve on Burgess Road where the old auto auction used to be. I've lived there for 30 years. I have been in contact with Mr. Godwin. He came down and talked to me after I made several calls to code enforcement and to the commissioner's office. First of all, I wanted to state that the card that you all sent out, that they sent out for this project or for this notification is not currently not represent the current status on Burgess Road. This drawing is from the proposed tie-in of Creighton Road to Pinestead Road to connect Creighton Road out to Highway 29. So this was wrong from the start. Anyway, I talked to several people about this. I had several questions to come up. I asked Mr. Godwin these questions when he came to my house. I wanted to call the attention to the facility which was operating without a permit. I called week before last and told them, based on my constituents contacting me and saying that, hey, they were operating in there. As Mr. Godwin stated, they have just been carrying stuff in and out. However, when I contacted the code enforcement and this environmental services office, they sent code enforcement out there to immediately shut them down. And they stayed shut down with the gates closed for several days. They're opened back up again. My question is, even with the washing process that they have of the concrete, what happens to the water that comes from that washing process? Also, the asphalt has never been addressed by Mr. Godwin to me, or have I seen any other information on it? So I have no information on the asphalt processing, and I wanted to see if there's a result of the environmental study for $450 that was made on the previous site back in May of 2022. And also the results of the last town hall meeting on May 5th, 22.
Dale, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker. Would you just please state your name and raise your right hand, and the clerk will swear you in.
Jennifer Williams. I did it earlier.
Did you do it earlier?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
I'm Jennifer Williams. I live at 6621 Owen Street. I'm at the dead end of two cul-de-sacs there, at the dead end of Maxim. I just wanted to make sure that the pre-existing drainage problem that has always existed in that area is addressed. Thank you, Mr. May, for putting in badly needed drains that have been needed there for a long time. However, that area is continuously being built up. I'm not sure where all the water's going, but I'm at the lowest spot, so I really would like to let you guys know, not only does most of the wind come from the south through that area, all of the drainage comes from there as well. So, you know, we already have traffic area with Palafox and Burgess that is highly congested. That is also a pre-existing condition that was never taken care of and followed through. So if you guys could just please know that there were no complaints from the previous site the interstate runs along there. So I imagine those guys really didn't care. But just please, lived here a long time, and I need some guys to really research this thoroughly because it's serious. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer, I appreciate it. Please just state your name and, were you sworn in earlier?
No.
Okay, just state your name and raise your right hand.
My name is Charles Crosby.
Mr. Crosby, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you provide tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, I live at 182 West Burgess Road. I live right at the entrance and out, you know, when the trucks come in and out. And, you know, I drive a truck myself. So, you know, I heard the gentleman say, you know, they spoke to everybody in the neighborhood. Hadn't anyone said anything to me. And I live right in front of it, you know, for the road, the access road, entrance road, or whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, we really hadn't seen a problem, but, I mean, for us going around talking to all the neighbors and talking to the residents, we hadn't been contacted other than that call.
Well, thank you, Mr. Crosby. Is there anybody else? And I hope that the residents share the value and the commitment. Right here, come on. Now, usually we have to sign in, but we certainly recognize that this is people's first time being here, so we're going to be considerate of the citizens. So just please, ma'am, if you state your name and raise your right hand.
I'm Kathleen Mills, and I live at 211 Pinestead Road.
Say your name one more time, please.
My name?
Yes, ma'am.
Kathleen Mills.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Mills.
I've been there 55 years, and I'm just terribly opposed to it. We already have big trucks from both ends of Palafox and Highway 29, and I can't imagine it. Some of the concrete trucks do come by the house, and it's bad enough on that road already. And I have grandkids. I just can't imagine where they're talking about putting it, and the noise, and the wind, and just, it's scary. I can't imagine any more traffic, but I know there's going to be more traffic if that goes through. Please consider that, and I'm very opposed to it. It just doesn't need to happen there. I know where their plant was, the last one down there on Palafox, and it was hard enough at certain times of day to get through there, and it still is, but I'm really opposed to it being there.
Thank you, Miss
Thank you.
Mills. Certainly appreciate you being here. Is there anyone else? So this is my district, and certainly there's no secret where I've been on landfills and concrete recycling. I've been pretty consistent. I do credit Jeff Godwin, for taking me to the site and showing me the site. And I think that, it doesn't present itself as the problem that I've seen in most instances. But here's where I'm stuck, is that I'm elected by the residents, whether it's Kathleen Mills or Darrell Stewart or Jennifer or Charles Crosby and all those people. I'm elected to represent their wishes. And so, quite frankly, Jeff, I didn't see only one person completely opposed. I heard a bunch of people not being educated and don't know exactly the impact. And so I probably would just move to reject it had I not been able to see the efforts that you've made. But I do recognize that the citizens who've come here said, we just don't understand. We want to know, the wind. We want to understand the water. We want to understand, whether there's a negative impact. We have a responsibility, CHIPS, ours, as a county, to do those studies, to do those analyses, to assure citizens that their safety is the #1 priority. And so being in this elected position, the #1 priority I have is the public safety of the citizens of Escambia County. Whether it be perceived or whether it be real, perception provides anxieties that can cause people, other implications. And so if I ever err, I'm going to err on the side of safety. And so what I would propose to my colleagues, if I had to pass the gavel tonight, is, to not reject this, but to postpone this and give Jeff an opportunity to meet and educate those citizens and to talk about it with staff, to see if there's a resolution that everyone can feel safe with. When people tell me the first time they heard about it is a postcard, well, that's because we made the effort. And I think that as a vendor, as a provider, that's one of the things I've said to everybody. Jeff, I've said that to you directly. Do the outreach and talk to the citizens, because I don't want it to be on Thursday night the first time the citizens have heard about this situation. And unfortunately, that's what I've heard tonight, and that's what I've directed staff. So with that being said, I would pass the gavel to Commissioner Berry, and I would move to drop the item, Horace, for 30 to 60 days, and to give the applicant an opportunity to meet with those citizens and to bring this item back. And that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Second, discussion? Sure. Okay. Chips? They said that concrete crushing would be shut down when winds exceed 25 miles an hour. It's showing, I'm assuming on what we were handed out is the proposed crushing location, which shows about 745 feet from, again, I'm assuming where the crushing would take place to the house. At 20 miles an hour or something like that, about how far do those particles go? Or is there a way to determine that? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying. In the literature that I've read, the fine particulate matter, the PM 2.5 that we're talking about, can travel miles. It can get caught up in currents and travel long distances. So I don't think one would be able to say that there will be 2.5 micrometers per cubic meter of particles traveling 675 feet or whatever that distance was.
Okay. With that being said, though, how close are you to your previous site? I'm looking at it on the map, but it's Burgess to the I-10, so.
On the old side, they were on the north.
No, how far are you from your old,
They were 100 feet.
Huh?
They were 100 feet.
No, how far is this location from the other one? Less than a half a mile, okay. Right, yeah. I know where it was on here, I can't measure the distance, so, and even though it was bordered to the interstate to the north, there is some homes to the north, so, I'm ready to support the chairman's motion, but with that being said, I was trying to indicate that it wasn't just the interstate right there that you guys were next to, that these could travel a little bit further, and what type of issue those other residences to the north previously had.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I understand particulate matter can travel, but wetted particulate matter is different. These, these sites, and this site in particular, is going to be fully wetted at all times. We're having a big irrigation system put in to do that, even the roads in and out. So when it gets to particulate matter, if you wet the matter, there's not going to be a bunch of flying. It's going to be going down on the ground. So, see, that's the difference. Everybody wants to talk about it flying around, and it could if it's dry. But if it's not dry, it's not going to fly around. If it does, let's say it goes up into the trees there and it rains, it comes off the leaves, back to the ground. So, a lot of things goes into this. There's silica dust everywhere. You walk down the street, there's silica dust. You walk across the yard, there's silica dust, okay? So it's not like we're manufacturing it, it's already naturally occurring silica dust. We're taking and breaking down the concrete and the silica's coming back out of it, is what's happening in the process, okay?
And I guess for the site, it looks like there are two retention ponds on the eastern side of the rental company.
Yeah, those are from the other sites. We're going to build our own retention pond. It's been reviewed by the county and the state and approved, and it is to a NOAA Atlas 14 storm, which is bigger than the current Escambia County code.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And Robert, that's why I want to give staff, I mean, because I don't think Chips or Tim them have really did any analysis. And so, I mean, it's going to have to be the safety and do all the wind testing and the water testing to be able to bring back. So I certainly appreciate that, Commissioner Vanderbilt.
Again, that was just some things I wanted to get answered in the next 30, 60 days.
Yeah, well, I mean, it probably won't happen in 30 days. It'll probably be 60 days now.
Chairman, if I may, Commissioner Bender, just one of the other things to point out, if you looked at our particular monitoring on the county website, there's always a background of PM 2.5 naturally in the air. And so what we're trying to do is just make sure that we don't exceed that 35 parts. So
And I think one of the things that we need to do in the data collection is any reports that they have from the current site, as, you know, have there been any particles that have left that site or any violations at the current
Yes, sir.
site. So we need a in-depth report.
And Commissioner, in the backup, there is a report that our Water Quality Division put together last month, and that shows 6 violations or 6 exceedances at the current site where they are.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just very briefly, before the board takes action, I just want to agree with what you said. I mean, it's, you know, do want to commend Mr. Godwin. It seems that he has made an effort interacting with the neighbors, and you know, it's considerably less people than were here last time we took up an item of his. So maybe in this interim time, you know, the speakers tonight and the speakers' names and their addresses are, you know, certainly part of the record. Maybe Mr. Godwin's going to be able to, you know, kind of advocate for himself in a you know, more intimate manner with those folks, and, you know, try to alleviate their concerns or their fears. And you know, like I said, it does seem like there's been quite a bit of effort made, and maybe continue to make an effort over the next few weeks and have it come back.
Yep, and maybe he just didn't get to all of those. And so, I mean, the number one priority, you know, for me, and I would say this, to Robert and Steve, is, you know, is not someone making a dollar, but it's someone's health. And so, I mean, I'm never going to err on the side of jeopardizing health, safety, and well-being of citizens. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Philip Pugh, counsel for
Hey,
the
how you doing,
applicant. How you
counsel?
doing, sir? I just wanted to step up and touch base real quick on the date, the timing. I was speaking with Mr. Jones, and we were talking about I know you had said 30 to 60 days. Just, we would ask that the board be, you know, set a time period that
60 days.
We can get back in at 60 where you're at, Mr. Chairman.
Even, I mean, I think there are some concerns that my colleague, Commissioner Bender, has presented, that Chips is going to need some time, and Tim, so it probably wouldn't happen in 30.
Do their work,
but,
okay.
Yeah, but we'll bring it back in 60 days.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so we had a motion and a second. You can flash up the vote screen. Please vote. Commissioner May's motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry, for your assistance. Horace?
Yes, sir. The next item is final plat approval for Paisley Place.
We have speakers? No, we don't have any speakers. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman, I move the item A through D.
Second.
Please vote.
Do we need anyone who didn't sign up up front, or? Yeah.
For this?
No, that had just spoken.
No. Well, I mean, what do you mean?
Okay.
I think we're good. All right. I pass 5 in favor. Horace?
The consent agenda for April the 20th and May the 4th.
So moved.
Chair, thank you. Second, please vote. Passes 5 in favor. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would you entertain skipping to car 3-2, OLF 8?
Yeah. So,
We have
were there anything that was held on any of your items? Can we just pass them, or is there anyone that be held, any speakers on any of them?
We have, well, on car 2, we have quite a few speakers.
All right, well, let's
Move
move.
the technical and public service consent.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
All right.
We don't have any speakers on the technical?
No,
No.
nothing technical.
All right,
Yeah,
I'll
so we're
second.
gonna move that, yeah. And that passes 5 in favor, and it's fine. Well, you want to move real to the discussion items, I guess.
Yeah,
is what you wanna
discussion,
do.
car 3-2.
So, yeah, let's go to discussion. We'll go to discussion item, then we'll come back.
We have 2 speakers on car 3-2. John Kellis. And Commissioners, I would note that I have emailed you out an updated letter of interest that we received a little bit later this afternoon.
My name's John Kellis. I live in Nature Trail. I missed the meeting earlier today, but I'm cognizant of some of the discussion that went on. I'm not sure, I hope there's no seasonal relevance between the biblical 30 pieces of silver and $6 million here, because it sort of seems like we're betraying the compromise that we had. I praise you, Commissioner, for your steadfastness in your original statement that you were against any housing on that property. And I looked at what was proposed already by Horton, and by gosh, there's even more housing on there than there was on the DPZ compromise. So come on, let's get real here and stick to our guns. We had a proposal by Breland saying that they would adhere to the DPZ compromise that we agreed to. I know they weren't there at the meeting this morning. I'm not sure when they were advised of it, but I do know that they've shown definite credibility in the work that they've done on similar properties with multi-use development. And I would hope that you would consider that we're familiar with Horton. Beulah has enough Horton development, and we don't want any more Horton development.
Yes, sir, your time is up. Thank you. Next speaker.
Teresa Blackwell.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a little time for a point of order on this before I start my comments?
Go ahead.
Okay, so stop my clock, please.
Go ahead and
whoever's-
talk.
Here's the point of order. Breland did not, they have messaged me, they did not know about the meeting today until yesterday, which, you know, they say no one told them about it, which is not fair. They don't even live here. So I think they deserve the chance to present their case before you move to just go with D.R. Horton as you were heading this morning. You know, I think the appearance of this is not good, if that they were not notified until the day before when they live out of town. And they obviously are interested. They have expressed their interest over and over again. The president called each commissioner, apparently, and the owner, the president is off hunting for 10 days. This is Easter. I think it's not fair, not good. Does not look good. It looks like the fix is in if they were notified the day before that there was a meeting. So I just wanted to put that out there as a point of order. Okay, so,
Teresa, I'm happy to address it. I mean, Wes, what was your correspondence with them? I mean,
Well, that's a speech, it's not a point of order.
I can't hear you.
I mean, that could be a question, it's not a point of order, it's not parliamentary procedure for a public speaker to go. But if you want to do it, Commissioner, we can, but that's not a point of order.
I'm happy to.
Nor is it a point of clarification.
You know, I mean, I would say the plan that was presented last night, and I haven't talked to the president, we didn't we didn't connect today, but it was not following the master plan.
Right.
In any way.
Not at all.
So
neither does this one at all.
I'd say theirs follows it even worse.
Theirs was even worse. Well,
I'll forward it to you,
yeah,
Teresa.
I still think they should have got a chance to present
Well,
it.
yeah, but I mean, we've talked about it for a month. I mean, it's.
Yeah, that's right, Commissioner. And, you know, earlier in the month, I've emailed all the CAD files, topo surveys, boundary surveys, wetland surveys. And as recent as last week, I spoke to a representative of a company they were partnering with who absolutely knew about the meeting today and was excited to be coming and present to the meeting today. And so, you know, I don't know where the miscommunication is, but I think we've been very clear from our end what the expectation was. And I think the board made that statement loud and clear from the dais the last time we had this discussion, that April 6th was going to be the day.
April 6th. Mr. Chairman, if I might, before we go forward with Teresa.
Yeah, go ahead,
Teresa,
Commissioner.
he did call me yesterday, and I was appalled. I said, you've got to send a team here. Tomorrow's the day.
Yeah,
I told him, I like your language better.
Right.
I like the fact that you're going to live with the master plan. Well, he said, well, you know, I've got commitments. I can't make it. I said, well, send some of your teammates. Oh, we can't make it. We're busy. You know, a $35 million offer on our property, it's been in the media, it's been on the radio, everyone's talked about it, we've talked about it. Everyone knew April 6th was the day. Well, yesterday afternoon, he sent something out that is all residential. Remember, I didn't want any residential. This is,
Oh, yes, I remember.
This is all this is the Breland. This is
right.
what they sent essentially.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, I'll send it to you. It's all residential with one little corner of 54 acres for job creation. Remember, it was supposed to be 636 acres for job creation. And it got whittled down, and the compromise, John likes to talk about compromise. So Breland's offer that they sent last night, haphazardly, is the worst thing I've ever seen. I would never support
Well,
this. Never.
it was no notice. I mean, it was like immediately they had to send
Everyone knew, like the Geico owl. Everyone knows.
Well, I just wanted to pass that on because I think we should be fair to them.
And Jeff,
All right.
you know, we can be fair, and then we'll let her talk in these seconds.
You're willing?
There's no, excuse me.
I'm just trying to hear what you're saying.
Okay, I'm talking to Jeff.
Oh, okay.
There's no secret that it was a bait and switch. What that land was acquired for was jobs, period. And that's what was given to taxpayers when they put their money. There's no question of what that land was acquired for. They give her time.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to thank Commissioner Bender for coming out for Beulah residents today, you know, and saying that it's important what we want there. And I agree with him on how to proceed with this, to sell the residential and keep the commercial for now. And I also appreciate his note, I just said that. Very nice to Beulah residents. I might argue that we should not sell the retail mixed-use town center to the Sterling D.R. Horton team. The plan Sterling developed over 2 weeks is awful. While they did not have much time to prepare it, it does indicate their approach to planning. As the youngest of their group said to me after the meeting this morning, I'm old school. I would say it's more like outdated, with old and debunked planning concepts illustrated in their plan. Thankfully, we already have a master plan developed with lots of community input and incorporated into our land development code. That is the starting point, not this plan, this terrible plan by Sterling. The plan, they showed us their project. They were shopping centers that they call town centers. Their plan labels a small green space as a town center. A town center is not that. What it would be is a center to our community with anything that any small town would take for granted. It's not a Costco, you know, and the planning concepts were horrid. The parking is out and exposed. It's supposed to be in the interior of the building. The connectivity is terrible. You'd have to, you know, zigzag your way to get from 9 Mile to Frank Reeder. They put, at the most beautiful amenities, they put apartment buildings up against it. And townhouses right up.
Your
to
time
the-
is up, Teresa. You
Right
don't
up
have-
to the amenity.
You don't have to wrap it up.
So let's sell that town center retail area to a developer that understands what a town center actually.
Teresa, would you be opposed to Section 8 and low-income housing on that property?
No, I would not.
Would
No.
you would support that?
I'm all in support.
You would?
And yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, that's our.
Yeah, I'm gonna
that's
support that.
our thing over the years.
I'm gonna see how many low-income
And
D.R. Horton can build. Yeah.
I want the workers there to be able to live
Yeah,
there.
that's what I'm saying. The
That's what
servers
I
and
want.
the dishwashers.
And I
Yeah.
want them to have better jobs
Yeah.
than warehouse workers.
Thanks, Teresa. I appreciate it, but I'm gonna support
Thank you.
that too. I'm gonna support
Yeah,
tax credit and.
We
some-
don't need 100 acres of warehouses.
No.
That's going to be automated.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Thanks, Teresa. All right.
thank you,
Commissioner
Commissioner
McGotch, thank you. No, we're gonna support that low-income housing there.
No, I'm,
All right.
Did you want to ask me something?
Oh, no,
good.
you're fine, you go ahead. We got any more speakers? No, that's it, no. Jeff?
All right.
Yeah, you do whatever you want to do.
Well, look, this has been a 2.5-decade evolution. A lot of people with a lot of foresight 2.5 decades ago, including Jim Cronley, including the Chamber of Commerce at the time, worked with the Navy to get this property. It was a long slog, I'll use that word. And this board put a lot of faith in that effort and a lot of money behind it. And we spent $18.5 million building a flying field for the U.S. Navy in Santa Rosa County to get the property. From the first minute that I campaigned for this job, and I live right across from the field, I recognized the value of having high-tech, high-quality jobs. I saw what Navy Federal was doing. I've seen what it does to other communities, and I always supported jobs out there. I understand there are differing opinions, even in my own subdivision, even among my neighbors, and of course, in the greater Beulah area. We went through the master planning process. It was very contentious. We acquired the property, and we've done everything right. We've compromised. We've worked with the community. We've worked with Navy Federal, and at every turn, the amount of that property that was supposed to be all for jobs got shrunk. It's just shrinking. It's shrinking and shrinking. So the Breland offer, I guess you could call it that, or their presentation last night, is down to 54 acres out of 636. And it's surrounded and engulfed by residential with a small, tiny little retail. It was a non-starter. It would have been dead on arrival. Maybe that's why they didn't show up. People that show up for a reason, people that don't show up, there's probably a reason. With all that said, we've been talking about this for a long time. We've had compromises. Meanwhile, as I've said over and over from this dais like a broken record, this economy is changing. That you cannot keep printing money. You cannot keep inflation. I mean, there's going to be a reckoning. It's coming. I don't want to be having this conversation a year from now when interest rates are 10%. People can't understand why eggs are now $15 a dozen. And, oh, by the way, why didn't you dummies sell OLF 8? Well, here's the thing. The minute we made those compromises and we were going to do a mixed use and everything like that, my whole perception changed. Now it's a liability, and we're sitting at $15 million of taxpayer money, $15 million into this. We have an opportunity here for $42 million. We can grow something that's very nice. Will it be what John and Teresa want? Will it be what I want? Of course it won't. We can limit the amount of housing that's on there. They've already agreed to that. We can do deed restrictions. In their latest deal, there's also the opportunity for us to buy back 100 acres of it, subject to the negotiation, so that we can get a Triumph grant and we can create some jobs on the field. 100 out of 636 is better than 50 out of 636. I wanted the, remember, I'm the guy who wanted it all, but I'm trying to work a compromise. Meanwhile, we will build a tremendous amount of retail there, restaurants, amenities. There will be some space there available. I've looked at their plan. They have a small space up on the far right. They could work with the school board, potentially build a school out there. I know my counterpart on the school board is very interested in that. I'm certain that they would entertain that. So look, there's never going to be a perfect deal. The porridge is never going to be less hot or less cold. It'll never be perfect, right? But this is $42 million on something we owe $15 million on. We will achieve a very nice profit for the taxpayers, over $5 million for each of our districts. That's a lot of sidewalks, roads, stormwater repairs, traffic. So we'll be second-guessed no matter what we do here, but I think we'd be making a tremendous mistake if we kick the can any further. We can enter in negotiations. I've met with these folks. Would I have liked 4 or 5 offers to choose from? Of course, we all would. But again, I tell my fellow board members, this economy is changing. It could go really, really bad. There's a war in Europe any minute. I prefer for us to lock down this deal, collect this money for the taxpayers. Let's build something of great value out there, and let's grow this tax base. Remember, we've grown the tax base. That's how we funded the sheriff's office for a 4-year deal. That's how we funded our corrections guards, our EMS. We haven't raised the tax rate. I've never raised the tax rate once in 15 years. I don't think this board has. When's the last time you raised the tax rates, Lumen? He's not even here. Steve, when did you raise?
It's never.
Never. We've never raised the tax rates. So the only way we get the revenue we need is to do deals like this and to keep growing this economy. So I'm going to be very, very supportive of this. Again, if we wait till the porridge is just right, we're going to have a field, an empty field. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. And, it's not exactly what I was looking for, especially some number of years ago. And I would have loved to have somebody swoop in and, just put a huge development out there with, thousands of high-paying jobs. We haven't had that approach come yet. There has been a lot of compromise, and I tell you, the plan that we're looking at is a lot different. It's a lot different that I'm seeing proposed than what it's one of the dangers of thinking you know what someone's going to tell you before you let them speak. It's a lot different than what I thought we would see, with a letter of intent from D.R. Horton. I think they brought on a partner that can develop the property, which is what, especially on the retail, commercial, and maybe even partner with us on the light industrial, the economic development portion. I think they brought on a partner that can, that can put the butts in seats and can successfully produce that, which is what's of utmost importance to me. I'm going to, tell you candidly, the 2 developments that were referenced in the letter of intent from Breland, which are Town Madison and Cliff Farms, I think those are fantastic projects. Looking at them, they're 600 acres each. They contain a lot of exactly what I'm looking for, what I was looking for out there. I think Horton has, by bringing on Sterling and, sweetening the pot as far as the letter of intent, I think they've really made a tremendous concerted effort to move forward in conversations with the county, and I'm sure that they're hoping that that's going to be the action that the board takes tonight to enter into those negotiations to hammer out a sales agreement. This is not the culmination of a process. It's, I think, the maybe second or third step in a lengthy process. So it's the beginning of that hammering out a sales agreement that is that's going to have to be in. Going to have to be favorable terms to the county, i.e. the taxpayers. I think that's going to be important. Some of the discussion this morning is, it's not necessary to memorialize those in, that discussion in the motion. I think if the board moves forward in negotiating a sales agreement, I think that's clear enough direction for Allison and Wes. But I do think, as we discussed this morning, that holding back of 100, 125, whatever number we can negotiate for ourselves to hold back for economic development, I think that's necessary. I think it was mentioned, I think, by you, Jeff, that it's absolute minimum. I know that's necessary for me. I know it's something my colleague from District 3 has mentioned many, many times, job creation on the property. And I think there may be some interest from from Sterling about kind of partnering with the county on, trying to help us, develop that holdback acreage. While the title may need to, stay in the county's, in the county's name, there's still a lot of potential there. There are a lot of large economic development deals get done without owning the underlying real estate. There's, for a large project like that, no matter how valuable we think the dirt is, the improvements are going to be more valuable. So the tenant, the tenant would own the improvements in that scenario, but we own the dirt. So I think there's a lot of potential, and I think that we owe it to move forward and at least try to work this out. I think we're now at a good number. I think we're at a number that, I can tell you conversationally, there were, many people in our community, while there are some that thought that this is, right about where we ought to be, there are many that thought that we wouldn't, that we wouldn't get here. So I think we're at a good number. I'm comfortable moving forward with the discussion, but, with the negotiating with that, that joint venture, whatever entity they're going to call it, for the sales agreement. But, we've got there's a lot of heavy lifting left to get to the point that a sales agreement comes back to this board for endorsement. So it should be an interesting next period of weeks.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry. Commissioner Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Commissioner Berry, I would agree. I appreciate the additional offer letter today, but I don't think we're going to be agreeing on a sales price tonight or those terms, but would be happy to talk about entering into negotiations. First, I would like to point out some of the things that I saw in this layout that I thought were definitely beneficial. You did have the Class A office space. You had the office and medical. In my discussion with them, they did talk about, it does look parking lot heavy right now, and I think they were going to work with that. I've also talked about the design standards that DPZ gave, and I think Teresa mentioned those, and that was trying to have parking on the interior as opposed to the outerior. And, as it comes to the out parcels, the retail restaurant, I mean, I somewhat knew that's probably what it was going to look like out there, and probably that retail space extends a little bit further in. But it does go, they do have a town center. It looks like an amphitheater, and I don't know exactly what else that is, but they do have some of those amenities that I think y'all were looking for, that none of those were included in the Breland offer. I mean, it really was a small retail space and 54 acres of light industrial, and the rest was residential. I think in my discussion, they've tried to keep up some green spaces, but I would try to hold on to as much of this as we can for light industrial, to work with the school board and have a site. They said this Idaho-looking parcel was for school, and I don't lay out schools, but I don't know if long and narrow is necessarily, that's not, yeah. So I think if we are able to retain some of that, we could look at putting the school where it's currently listed in, I think we have some options on where we would be able to put the school and still have some industrial and commercial areas. So, I think in our negotiations, we find out what we can retain and work with them in the future, and give the residential and the retail out parcels and things like that would be what I'd want to negotiate. But I would also say, hear from the residents of Beulah. It might be worthwhile to try to hold a town hall as we enter into negotiations, to let them see how they can influence the development, because these are the people that you'll be relying on to support whatever entities you go in there. And I think to have something that they feel welcoming and somewhere where they want to go probably helps. You know, that they don't want just, I think I read it as another interstate, you know, strip mall area. You know, Jeff, I don't know about the steak and the wine being in here.
It'll be there.
But, you know, I know that, of course, you guys have relationships with the national chains. And those are the names that everyone recognizes. But I think they would also try to like to see some local influence. And you know, we've had great, you know, success with George's and people like that. We have great restaurant groups here. And I think they would know if something could be successful up there that they could work it. So to try to have those incorporated would be great. But again, I liked seeing the mixed use in terms of the office, the medical, not just the retail and residential. And so I hope we can continue you know, further with the negotiation and getting that done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bender. Commissioner Kohler.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I always try to create some decision space to look at where we are today and where we were. And where we were just a few weeks ago is we were thinking Breland was the best deal at $35 million. And we didn't even see who they're going to bring in at that time for the commercial development. I think the decision space to move this out to April 6th was a great decision. I think D.H. Horton, and to go back to Breland's not a serious deal. Anyone that wanted to put out $35 million and said they didn't know this was going on, that's not serious. It's just not serious. We got to just open up and admit it. But D.H. Horton, you are serious. And so are you, Sterling. Everything that this board has asked so far, you've done. You asked for 100 acres, you put in the contract. The chairman said 42 million, you put another $1 million in the pot. I want OF8 to be successful, but I also want District 2 to be successful because of this project. There's a lot of money that's going to come back in, and I know District 2 would like to see some of that. And so I'm 100% supportive of this deal. You guys have carried yourself like businessmen should. I think the county would make a huge mistake not going forward with this tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner. And let me just, you know, give my 2 cents in 30 seconds because I know Commissioner Kohler needs to leave. I appreciate the team that Sterling has put together because they've been straightforward and honest with me in all my dealings. And so I can only give an account of how they dealt with me, and they've dealt very straight up with me, and I appreciate that leadership. And so we got to go into negotiations. And so any good negotiation means that, you know, I get something, you get something, nobody gets everything that they want. That's a good negotiation because if someone feels like they got the big end of the stick, then nobody wins. And we're negotiating on behalf of the citizens. And so although I hope Stephen and Jeff go have 101 town hall meetings. I'm not going to have any town hall meetings. But let's see. Because, you know, we have to have a consensus to send our negotiating team to negotiate because all 5 of us are not on the same page. And so I'm certainly going to move forward and be supportive, but we have to spend some time in a workshop seeing what we want Escambia County and outline field aid to look like in future years. For me, when people say, and I appreciate Jeff and his commitment to education because I do. You know, listen, you can always find public land to build a school and residential. There's no more industrial or commercial property close to 9 Mile Road. It's at the end. We have built out. I mean, and so we have to be very conscious of this is the last opportunity for light industry in Escambia County. It's the best opportunity for commercial property, and it yields ad valorem taxes. Anybody, you know, that's ever even, you know, tripped over a real estate agent or developer understands that commercial property is more valuable than residential property every day of the week. I mean, and so we have to, you know, take that into consideration. Promises made, promises kept. We made a promise And, three of y'all were not on this board, Steve and I were. We made a commitment to create jobs. And if we don't do that, then we've not lived up to what we said that we're gonna do. So those are the things that are important to me. DPZ, design, Sterling, concepts, that's all fine, but at the end of the day, we make the votes, we make the decisions, and I believe that, as we move forward into negotiations, we have to come to a consensus that the five of us have to negotiate where we want to go, because that's unfair to send a negotiating team in trying to yield results for five individuals rather than a cohesive goal of what Escambia County needs. And so for me, I'm going to be supportive with a lot of caveats. I mean, I've said that, what I've said to Sterling, what I've said to Breland, local minority inclusion. They got the dollar amount up, and Kohler, I agree with you. It has to do something that's going to not improve just that neighborhood. It has to improve our neighborhood. It's been all over the map. Well, we're going to do affordable housing. We're going to do attainable housing. All that's hogwash. Let me just tell you this. We don't even know how much is a residential house going to cost in Outline Field 8. Nobody up here knows, because they don't know. And let me just tell you, if it's more than $300,000, 75% of the people that work for Escambia County can't even afford it. So you're building a public development, the largest public works project, and the people that work for you can't even go out there and buy a house. And that's the reality of it. Because if the house is more than $300,000 or $400,000, people that work for us can't afford it. So we got to take all those things in consideration. So we want to get it with the best value for the dollar. And what you do, you price out all of your citizens who paid and invested in this land. And the only people that can live there are the people that you import from California and New York to move here and live on property that people invested in. So to me, we have to have all those conversations because the citizens have invested in this. So for me, I'm supportive of sending this to negotiation, but not without saying that we're going to have a workshop, a committee of the whole to give direction. I mean, because we have to give direction. We can't just say we're just going to throw the plan out and tell them to go build apartments and houses and those type of things. And the very people that I represent, and I will never, ever live. It'll be like going to New York for my people to be able to go and afford a $400,000 house, because we hadn't created a job that equals that. And so, you know what? We're going to build the houses first, and then we're going to tell them to dream and go to bed and hope that God comes down and give them an industry job after all the houses have been built and they've appreciated and they still can't afford it. So it all has to go in tandem together for me. And so, I mean, it's all a part of what I call the master plan. And so for me, all that has to be laid out for me to be supportive. So, I mean, I'll support to go in negotiation. I'm very happy for the price that they've come. I wanted it more. I mean, I said 44, my low was 42, and being good developers that they are, they came in at the low. I mean, I wish they would have came in at the high, but that's okay. I mean, I get it. I mean, we'll figure it out in negotiation. But I'm certainly not going to be a part for my vote that represents District 3, Kohler. I'm not going to be a part of a project that's supposedly all-inclusive that excludes the very people that I represent. And I can just tell you, if we went out there today and built those houses on that dirt, the people I represent would be excluded. And the people that I represent put in just as much equity because they pay taxes and all those other things as any other person in this district. And so I think there's a way to work it. I mean, the most valuable landscape we have in Escambia County is Commissioner Bender. It's Pensacola Beach. It was all lease fees. We didn't own it. So there's a way to work out a P3. There's a way to work out lease fees and get taxes. There's a way to work it out, but we're not going to work out in a public meeting here. So, I mean, conceptually, in theory, I love it. Practicality, there's a lot of details before I can be fully supported, Jeff. But I certainly want to get it off first base. And, I mean, I would certainly say, to my colleagues, if we have to yield to our friends at Florida West, if we have to yield to our friends at NAIOP or our friends like Jim Cronley that was in the development world to help give us guidance, let's not, be so egotistical that we don't yield to our friends who have development experience to help us bring forth the best project for all of the citizens of Escambia County. So that being said, the chair will entertain a motion.
And Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the letter, take it in, and begin negotiations. And I also move that we schedule a town hall, or not a town hall, a workshop, as you described. I think that's a great idea. A special committee of the whole.
Would that being the only subject?
Yeah, with that being the only subject. That's my motion to discuss that.
Second. Please vote.
Sorry.
Oh, we got further discussion? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go-
So Jeff, when you say accept the letter, I mean, they're asking for, if the seller is in agreement with these basic terms and conditions, that we need to execute the letter and return the undersigned within 10 days. Again, Again, I think the price is still to be negotiated and things like that, so.
That's why I made the motion the way I did. We're going to accept the letter and we're going to begin negotiations.
Yeah, we're not
That's what-
Okay, that's what, I mean, we're acknowledging receipt of letter then. So, okay, that's what.
Second stands.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going in and negotiate a price without coming back to this board. I mean, yeah, I mean, no one's gonna go negotiate a lower price, I mean, without coming back to this board. That ain't happening. And that passes 5-0, and listen, I mean, I know each of us have our own independent thoughts, and certainly, you know, I have yielded this to Commissioner Berry and Commissioner McGosh since the inception, but I certainly don't think that you can have 5 commissioners teaming up with council and administrators and whatever consultants we have. So Jeff, Steve, if y'all want to take the lead, as chairman, I back off and let you take the lead as long as you guys, you know, take what we said into consideration. So I'll back off, so. Congratulations to Breland, to Sterling. I don't know, it's been a
Freudian.
well, yeah, it's a long, I don't know. And so let me say, in West, we do have, and I like my friends at Breland, we do have documentation where they were contacted to be able to be here.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Thanks. All right, Wes, let's move, because we got
All
to
right.
get Commissioner Cole out here in 10 minutes.
I've got car 2 or 29 items on the Budget Finance Consent Agenda. Make the following changes. I want to note that on car 2-5, we have a revised version of PD 22-23.45 for Shavers Construction, and it's been added to the backup. And also, we're going to hold car 2-5 for a speaker, and then hold car 2-26 for speakers.
All right, Chair, entertain a motion for the
Move the
balance.
balance.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you need to hold 8.
Wes?
1 second, just 1 second. Don't ask Wes a question real quick.
Are we okay, Commissioner?
No, not necessary to hold anything.
Okay, we're going to move the balance.
Second.
All right, please vote.
Sorry, who made the initial motion?
Commissioner
Thank you
McGosh.
so much.
Forgot.
Mr. Kripnick, if you want to make your way to the front.
That passed in five in favor, thank you.
Mr. Kripnick, car 2-5.
Is that the only speaker?
Yes, Charles Krupnick, 14500 River Road, Pensacola, and president of the Perdido Key Association. Just wanted to say we on Perdido Key appreciate the effort that's being made by county personnel to gather funding needed to complete the Perdido Key multi-use path. It's unfortunate that delays and other circumstances have increased the cost of the project, but we're hopeful funding is approved and construction can begin soon. When you drive on Perdido Key and see the people walking on the completed west portion of the path, as well as the River Road and Johnson Beach Road paths, separate from the roadway, you can appreciate their value to our community. So completion of the multi-use path, hopefully early next year, will be wonderful for Perdido Key and the rest of the county. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Chair, entertain a motion for 2-5.
I move item 5 in the affirmative.
Second.
And congratulations, Jeff. Passes 5 in favor. Wes?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Just, if I might.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Wes, and to staff. I know we had a few kinks in the works, but I appreciate y'all working through that, and I appreciate the support. Thank you.
We have car 226. We have 13 speakers, and also Commissioner Kohler had wanted to make a statement about this one.
So, let's hear the speak.
Larry Downs Jr. Dean Kirshner, you'll be next.
Hey, Lumen. Y'all might not know it, but me and Lumen are friends.
Of course we are. I saw you got beat up in that first boxing match.
I've had many of ass whippings. Butt whippings. But it never discouraged me, kind of like speaking up here. I want y'all to vote, to remove this, these oyster sacks. They shouldn't have ever been there to begin with. That's a waste of money. It was a waste of money to begin with. And so that I don't know how we get these type of projects. Maybe y'all should vet them a little bit more, or before they get implemented to where you have to spend so much money to remove them. I'm not saying it ain't worth removing them. We need to remove them. But man, wouldn't it have been better just not to have them to begin with? It's just kind of like so many things y'all do, not just y'all. It's from here to the capital of our state and every state and all the way to D.C. It's the same nonsense, I wish y'all would just stop with all of this government overreach. We end up with the same thing here. It's just like, y'all remember spraying all this down? Larry, you're touching the podium. Stop it. You're spitting on the mic. We got to clean it. It's just silly. All right, adios.
Thanks, Larry. I remember when you got COVID, too. Who's our next speaker?
Dean Kirshner, you're up.
Dean Kirshner. Yeah, one time, I know, because you spit on the mic. Come on, Dean, we got to go.
Dean, you're
You support? All right, Dean, support. Let's go. Yeah.
William Van Horn.
Yeah. Support. Yeah, support. Hey, you just support.
Jim Kaufman.
Good.
Estelle Kirshner. I support it. Keith Bowe.
I support it.
Diane Crummell.
Yes, I support it.
Timothy Smith. Mel Pino. Kevin Wade. Mike Pino. Walter Arrington. And Chandra Smiley. That is everybody.
So just tell them to wave their hand. Wave.
Allison Dooley and Marie Scopus in support.
Great. Thank you. Chair, entertain a motion.
I got to talk about this for a second, and it's not that I'm not in support, okay? I have mixed feelings about this, and it's because of what I'm going to talk about in messaging with the compatibility use study for the Navy. The project in itself probably could have been done better. I agree with that. But I will say this, I know the people here in support, but I've been to every single neighborhood group around there. It's not 100%. You just got to be honest. I represent everyone. But what I'm more concerned about is when we voted on this, and y'all voted on it, there wasn't a contingency plan. Silent messaging matters on federal government property. The compatibility use study clearly takes in water quality. All I want is a commitment that we're going to clean up Bio Grande, whatever we do. And that's my problem with this, because it matters for this compatibility use study that we are definitely, water management's on there, Mel, I promise you. Well, I'm not against this. What I'm saying is, I do believe that, and I've talked to CHIPS, and I think we need to have a strategic plan to message that we're going to clean up Bio Grande. And that's all I'm asking. It wasn't that I'm opposed to what the board voted on. Probably would have been a little bit different. For the record, they're putting 250 acres of oyster shells, lime, and seagrass in Pensacola Bay. I was there yesterday with Robert. He heard the same thing I did. But that's basically what I want. So I'm asking CHIPS, and I'm doing this because I think it's important, the silent messaging with this sometimes. The federal government doesn't look at neighborhoods like this. They look at what boards do. Sometimes they do, depending on the MAC. But the people sitting in Washington DC, I spent 3 years there, they're not going to know what's going on in Navy Point. They're going to look at the 18 metrics that are on this and say, do we meet them? And we don't meet a lot of them. But the board has moved on some of these items, like septic to sewer, some of the other things. We haven't done a real good job on Gold Beach Highway. That's a problem. The schools are a different issue. But I would be remiss if I didn't come out and say this, because when I ran, I fought to save that base. And I truly believe NAS Pensacola is at risk. I may be the only one here, but I believe it's a risk because I was part of the Oconee study. I was in Brock 1993, and I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to save the base. And I'm for water quality too. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Chair, entertain a motion.
You make it. I move that we accept this and remove the shell piles.
I'll second.
Please vote. Pass 5 in favor. Thank you. Wes?
Mr. Chairman, there was, we had on car 3-1, the domes discussion, and that discussion took place this morning, but Mr. Keith Bowe had signed up to speak on that item. I don't know if he still wants to.
Keith?
This is the domes?
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate Commissioner May for saying that he sees where certain commissioners should take the lead on something. And this is the case here with Commissioner Kohler, because he's the most qualified in the process, being in the medical community. He knows when there's a good value. Now, I understand we're 47% of the use of this, which means that the other counties around here are the other 50 some odd percent. So that's why I think it also makes sense for the entire encompassing area to have this on Avalon Boulevard. And rather than try to have 2 different places, one on Avalon Boulevard and one here in Pensacola that is in need of a lot of repairs, we just take and listen to Commissioner Kohler with his experience, his understanding of fundings. You know, he knows that the building proposed is too big, so let him negotiate for it. Let's pay attention to his expertise on this particular item. And that's pretty much all I need to say. Commissioner Kohler is the most qualified person to speak on this, and I think everybody here recognizes that I'm right and that he's right.
Thank you, Keith. We appreciate it. And there's no action needed on the discussion item. Wes, let's move. Let's keep going.
That is my report.
All right, Allison?
I have 3 items on the county attorney's report. There was a speaker signed up for item number 3.
Who's the speaker? Charles? Please come forward. We're just going to take all 3 at the same time, Allison, if that's fine.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Yes, Charles Krupnick, 14500 River Road, Pensacola, and president of the Perdido Key Association. As discussed in the December 2022 public forum, and you've heard before, reducing the number of signs identifying private-owned property from 3 currently allowed is a concern to many Perdido Key beachfront property owners. 1 sign 10 feet from the dune line, as indicated in the proposed ordinance, will be interpreted by many as the boundary of private ownership, with the rest of the beach open to public use. Beachfront property is different from other private property, but should still be protected. If you owned a home next to a public park and people strayed onto your lawn, you'd probably take some action. But placing a no trespassing sign next to your front door would probably not be effective, okay? You would want signs at the boundaries, maybe even put up a fence. We certainly don't want a fence on the beach, but 3 signs seemed workable. I appreciate the good intentions of the ordinance to protect wildlife, but beach use is increasing and there are limited places on Perdido Key. We'll have perhaps 1,000 new residents in the Altura apartment complex being built on Innerarity, just 3 minutes from the beach, and no place to go. But having the public spill onto private beaches because of inadequate signage is not the right solution. If the one beach sign ordinance is adopted, I hope commissioners will support additional action to help maintain ownership rights. Can owners place additional movable signs during the day, as has been done elsewhere, like sandwich signs, for example? They could be taken down at night. Our county parks department could use more support to keep up with signs that keep disappearing. Also, more federal, state, and county presence on our beaches would also be appreciated. An occasional ATV on the beach driven by a uniformed official would have a good effect on public order. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to accept all three items on
Yeah.
the county attorney's report.
So moved.
Motion. Second. Please vote.
There we go.
Passes 5 in favor. And before we adjourn, I did forget to send my condolences prayers to Lemuel Jones, who was one of the original trainers of Roy Jones and one of the original square ring owners who lost his life, to brother Rosemond Johnson of Johnson Beach, and Raymond Reese, who lost his life. And I didn't think about it till I thought about all the times he beat Larry Downs up in the boxing ring. So again, our prayers and condolences are to that family. Thank you. We stand adjourned.